Now we will discuss chapter 15, Lord Krishna's description of mystic perfection. Not down. So the chapter summary. This chapter describes the 8 primary and the 10 minor mystic perfections. They are developing by fixing one's mind in yoga, but they are ultimately obstructions to achieving the spiritual abode of Lord Krishna. So not interesting for us, but good to know them. We will hear about them. So being questioned by Uddhava, Lord Sri Krishna describes the characteristics of the 18 mystic perfections and the particular kind of meditation by which each is achieved. In conclusion, Krishna states that for one who desires to perform pure devotional service of the personality of Godhead, the achievement of these mystic perfections is a waste of time, because they distract one from proper worship. All these perfections are automatically offered to a pure devotee, but he does not accept them. Unless used in the yoga of devotional service, these perfections are valueless. The devotee simply sees that the personality of Godhead is always present everywhere, both externally and internally, and depends completely upon him. Now, text 1. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Uddhava, the mystic perfections of yoga are acquired by a yogi who has conquered his senses, studied his mind, conquered his breathing process, and fixes his mind on me." Purport: there are 8 primary mystic perfections, such as anima, siddhi, and 10 secondary perfections. In this 15th chapter, Lord Krishna will explain that such mystic perfections are actually impediments to the development of Krishna consciousness, and therefore one should not desire them. So in this chapter, Lord Krishna will explain that these yoga siddhis are stumbling blocks on the path of Krishna consciousness. She would have said, "My dear Lord Asyuta, by what process can mystic perfection be achieved? And what is the nature of such perfections? How many mystic perfections are there? Please explain these things to me. Indeed, you are the bestower of all mystic perfections." More text. So, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "The master of the yoga system have declared, the masters of the yoga system have declared that there are 18 types of mystic perfection and meditation, of which 8 are primary, having their shelter in me, and 10 are secondary, appearing from the material mode of goodness." So a pure devotee of the Lord automatically receives from the Lord wonderful potencies to execute his devotional service. If for sense gratification one mechanically endeavors to acquire mystic perfections, then these perfections are certainly to be inferior expansions of the Lord's external potency. That Vishwanath Thakur says. So, among the 8 primary mystic perfections, the 3 by which one transforms one's own body are anima, becoming smaller than the smallest; mahima, becoming greater than the greatest; and laghima, becoming lighter than the lightest. Through the perfection of prapti, one acquires whatever one desires, and through prakamya siddhi, one experiences any enjoyable object, either in this world or the next. Through ishita siddhi, one can manipulate the subpotencies of maya, and through the controlling potency called vashita siddha, one is unimpeded by the 3 modes of nature. One who has acquired kama vasayita Siddhi can obtain anything from anywhere to the highest possible limit. My dear gentle Uddhava, these 8 mystic perceptions are considered to be naturally existing and unexcelled within this world. Spot 5. This is the purport. Can someone read the purport, please?
Through Anima Siddhi, one can become so small that one can enter a stone or pass through any obstacle. Through Mahima Siddhi, one becomes so great that one covers everything, and through Lagima, one becomes so light that one can ride on the sun's rays into the sun planet. Through Prapti Siddhi, one can acquire anything from anywhere and can even touch the moon with one's finger. By this mystic perfection, one can also enter into the senses of any other living entity through the predominating deities of the particular senses. And by thus utilizing the senses of others, one can acquire anything through prakamya. One can experience any enjoyable object, either in this world or the next. And through Ishita, or the controlling potency, one can manipulate the sub-potencies of Maya, which are material. In other words, even by acquiring mystic powers, one cannot pass beyond the control of illusion. However, one may manipulate the sub-potencies of illusion through Vashita, or power of control. One can bring others under one's dominion or keep oneself beyond the control of the 3 modes of nature. Ultimately, one acquires through Kama Vasaita the maximum powers of control, acquisition, and enjoyment. The word Autpattika in this verse indicates being original, natural, and unexcelled. These 8 mystic potencies originally exist in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, in the superlative degree. The Lord Krishna becomes so small then that he enters within the atomic particles, and he becomes so large that as Mahavishnu, he breathes out millions of universes. The Lord can become so light or subtle that even great mystic yogis cannot perceive him. And the Lord's acquisitive power is perfect because he keeps the total existence eternally within his body. The Lord certainly can enjoy whatever he likes, controls all energies, dominate all other persons, and exhibit complete omnipotency. Therefore, it is to be understood that these 8 mystic perfections are insignificant expansions of the mystic potency of the Lord, who in Bhagavad Gita is called Yogeshwara, the supreme Lord of the mystic potencies. These 8 perfections are not artificial, but are natural and unexcelled because they originally exists in the personality of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thank you, Maharaj.
So, someone is interested. We will hear now about 10. These were the 8 primary perfections. Now Krishna will speak about 10 secondary mystic perfections in 6-7. The 10 secondary mystic perfections arising from the modes of nature are the powers of freeing oneself from hunger and thirst and other body disturbances, hearing and seeing things far away, moving the body at the speed of mind, assuming any form one desires, entering the bodies of others, dying when one desires, witnessing the pastimes between the demigods and the celestial girls called apsaras, completely executing one's determination and giving orders whose fulfillment is unimpeded. That so 8-9. The power to know past, present, and future, tolerance of heat, cold, and other dualities, knowing the minds of others, checking the influence of the sun, water, poison, and so on, and remaining unconquered by others. These constitute 5 perfections of the mystic yoga, pose of yoga and meditation. I am simply listing these here according to their names and characteristics. Now, please learn from me how specific mystic perfections arise from specific meditations and also of the particular processes involved. So now the first is anima. One who worships me in my atomic form, pervading all subtle elements, fixing his mind on that alone, obtains the mystic power of anima. So anima, or the mystic ability to make oneself smaller than the smallest and thus able to enter within anything. The method is fixing one's mind on the atomic form of the Lord, pervading all subtle elements, fixing his mind on that alone. So in India, Prabhupada told there was a mystic yogi who could make himself smaller than the smallest. And one day the police came and put him in jail for, I don't know for what, but they put him in jail, and then a few hours he was at home again. He made himself smaller and went to the keyhole and he was home again, and they gave it up. Let them know. Anyway, 11. When you absorb this mind in this particular form of the Mahatattva, and who meditates then upon the supreme soul of the total material existence, achieves the mystic perfection called Mahima. By further absorbing the mind in the situation of each individual element, such as the sky, air, fire, and so on, one progressively acquires the greatness of each material element. So that's Mahima, coming greater than the greatest. So absorbing one's mind in a particular form of the Mahatattva. Once the yogi has established his realization that the material creation is not different from the Lord, he obtains a perfection called Mahima Siddhi. So the last lines of the purport, beginning with here. However, the pure devotees are not very interested in such perfections because they are surrendered to the personality of Godhead, who exhibit such perfections to the infinite degree. Being always protected by the Lord, the pure devotees save their precious time to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thus they achieve for themselves and others some siddhi, or the supreme perfection, pure love of Godhead, Krishna consciousness, by which one expands one's existence beyond material creation to the spiritual planets called Vaikuntha. So that's the real mystic perfection obtained by the pure devotees. Now, Lahima. I exist within everything, and I am therefore the essence of the atomic constituents of material elements. By attaching his mind to me in this form, the yogi may achieve the perfection called Lahima, by which he realizes the subtle atomic substance of time. So the power to make himself lighter than the lightest. But purport. Srimad Bhagavatam elaborately explains that Kala, or time, is a transcendental form of the Lord that moves the material world. Since the 5 gross elements are composed of the atoms, The atomic particles are the subtle substance of manifestation of the movements of time. More subtle than time is the personality of God himself, who expands his potency as a time factor. By understanding all these things clearly, the yogi obtains Lahima Siddhi, or the power to make himself lighter than the lightest. And we have also Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj on this text 12. Quote purport. If the yogi fixes his mind in meditation on the subtle characteristics of the material elements, understanding them to be energetic expansions of the Supreme Lord, he can attain the Lahima Siddhi. Those who are not devoted to the Supreme Lord will only achieve an illusory fragment of mystic potency. So now, this is moment. This was Lahima. Here at the purport, and 13 is the power of acquisition by which one becomes the proprietor of the senses of all living entities is prapti here. Fixing his mind completely in me, within the elements of false ego generated from the mode of goodness, the yogi obtains the power of mystic acquisition, by which he becomes the proprietor of the senses of all living entities. He obtains such perfection because his mind is absorbed in me. So Prapti Siddhi, the power of acquisition, by which one becomes the proprietor of the senses of all living entities. Purport. It is significant that in order to acquire each mystic perfection, one must fix one's mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur states that those who pursue such perfections without fixing the mind on the Supreme Lord acquire a gross and inferior reflection of each mystic potency. Those who are not conscious of the Lord cannot actually synchronize their minds perfectly with the universal function, and therefore cannot elevate their mystic opulences to the universal platform. Now, text. That was 13. 14 is prakamya, establishes one to experience any enjoyable object. One who concentrates all mental activities in me as a supersoul of that phase of the Mahatattva which manifests the chain of fruitive activities obtains from me, whose appearance is beyond material perception, the most excellent mystic perfection called prakamya. Can someone read the purport, please? Shri Viraraghava Acharya.
Srila Veer Raghav Acharya explains that the word sutra or thread is used to indicate that the Mahatattva sustains one's fruitive activities just as a thread sustains the raw jewels. Thus, by a fixed meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the soul of the Mahatattva, one can achieve the most excellent platform called Parakamya. Avyakta Janmana indicates that Supreme Personality of Godhead appears from the Avyakta, the spiritual sky, but that his birth is Avyakta, beyond the perception of the material senses. Unless one accepts the transcendental form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no possibility of obtaining Parakamya or any other genuine mystery.
Thank you. The next perfection is Isita Siddhi. One who places his consciousness on Vishnu, the Supersoul, the Prime Mover and Supreme Lord of the external energy, consisting of the three modes, obtains the mystic perfection of controlling other conditioned souls, their material bodies, and their bodily designations. So this is Isita Siddhi. It enables one to manipulate the subpotencies of Maya, by which one can control the material bodies of others, along with their designations. Purport, we should remember that mystic perfection never enables a living entity to challenge the supreme person, the supremacy of the personality of Godhead. In fact, one cannot obtain such perfections without the mercy of a Supreme Lord. Thus, one's controlling power can never disturb the plan of Lord Krishna. One is allowed to exhibit mystic control only within the confines of the laws of nature. And even a great yogi who transgresses the laws of God by his so-called mystic opulence will severely be punished, as revealed in the story of the Uddhava Muni cursing Ambarish Maharaj. We have seen, yeah. 16. Nasvashita. The yogi who places his mind in my form of Narayan, known as the fourth factor, full of all opulences, becomes endowed with my nature and thus obtains the mystic perfection called Vashita. Can someone read the purport, please?
In Bhagavad Gita 7:13, Lord Krishna states, Traivir Gunamayir Bhaver Ebihi Sarvam Idam Jagat Mohitam Nadbijanati Mam Evam Param Avyayam. Deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. Thus, the Lord is called Turiya, or the fourth factor beyond the three modes of nature. According to Srila Veeraraghava Acharya, Turiya also indicates that the Lord is beyond the three ordinary phases of consciousness, namely wakefulness, dreaming, and dreamlessly. Bhagavad Shabda Shabdite indicates that the Lord is known as Bhagavan, or the possessor of unlimited opulences, principally beauty, fame, wealth, knowledge, renunciation, and intelligence. In conclusion, one can obtain the mystic opulence Vashishta, or freedom from the mode Vashita, or the freedom from the modes of nature, by meditating upon the Lord as Turiya, the fourth factor beyond those modes. Everything depends upon the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So Turiya, the fourth dimension. And then Kama Vasayayita Siddhi, that's next one. One who fixes his pure mind on me in my manifestation as the impersonal Brahman obtains the greatest happiness, wherein all his desires are completely fulfilled. So, Paramananda, or the greatest happiness, here indicates the greatest material happiness, since it is clearly stated in Srimad Bhagavatam that the devotee has no personal desire or karma. One who has personal desire is solely within the material world, and on the material platform, the greatest happiness is Kama Vasaya Ita Siddhi, or the perfection of completely obtaining anything one desires. And now these were the 8 primary perfections, mystic yoga perfections. Now we'll hear about the 10 secondary perfections. And the first one is Svetadvipa Pati. A human being who concentrates on me as the upholder of religious principles, the personification of purity, and the Lord of Svetadvip obtains the pure existence, in which he is free from the 6 waves of material disturbance, namely hunger, thirst, decay, death, grief, and illusion. Can someone read the purport?
The Lord now begins to explain the process for obtaining the 10 secondary mystic perfections derived from the modes of nature. within the material world, Lord Vishnu, addressed here as Shvetadvipapati, the Lord of Shvetadvipa, governs the material mode of goodness and is thus called Shuddha and Dharmamaya, or the personification of purity and piety. By worshipping Lord Vishnu as the personification of material goodness, one obtains the material benediction of freedom from the bodily disturbance.
Thank you. The next perfection, that purified living entity who fixes his mind on the extraordinary sound vibration occurring within me as a personified sky and total life here is then able to perceive within the sky the speaking of all living entities. Purport: speech occurs by vibrating air within the sky. One who meditates on the Supreme Lord as the personified sky and air thereby acquires the ability to hear that which is vibrated at a great distance. The word prana indicates that the Lord is the personified life air of the individual living entities and for the total aggregate of life forms. Ultimately, the pure devotees meditate on the supreme vibration. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and are thus able to hear the speech originating from liberated living entities far beyond the material universe. Any living entity can hear such discussions by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and other such literatures. One who has properly understood the opulences of the Supreme Personality of Godhead finds soul perfection, mystic, and otherwise in Krishna consciousness. There's the ability to hear what is vibrated from great distance. And now the extraordinary power to see things at a distance. Merging one's sights into the sun planet, and then the sun planet into one's eyes, one should meditate on me as existing within the combination of sun and vision, and thus one acquires the power to see anything, to see any distant thing. So there's a power to acquire to see any distant thing. Then the yogi, the next 21, that's a perfection called Manojava. The yogi will completely absorb his minds in me and will then make use of the wind that follows the mind to absorb the material body in me, obtains through the potency of meditation on me the mystic perfection by which his body immediately follows its mind wherever it goes. Can someone read the small purport, 21?
Tat
Anuvayuna indicates the particular subtle air that follows the mind. When the yogi merges this air together with the body and mind in Krishna, by the potency of meditation on the Lord, his gross material body, like the subtle air, can follow the mind anywhere. This perfection is called Manojava.
Yeah, so one acquires the power by which his body immediately follows his mind wherever he goes. So this is the mystic power that allows him to travel in a moment to everywhere he desires. Srila Prabhupada spoke about, sometimes about yogis. You have 4 main places of pilgrimage in India, and they would dip into the Ganges at one place and come out in another 1 second later. But anyway, that 22. That's Kama Rupa. Yes, Mother Emma Gopi, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
What I have observed is the people who have such mystic powers are generally worshippers of Lord Shiva. They'll have this ashes and all that. So I'm wondering if apart from what is described here in Bhagavatam, there are other methods of achieving this perfection, or how did those Shiva Bhaktas get these perfections, Maharaj? Thank you.
Well, I never tried it out with Lord Shiva. I can't say, but these verses say that to get the real thing, you must meditate on Krishna. Otherwise, you get just reflection from it. So by the blessings of Lord Shiva, then he gives to his devotees mystic powers. That to Frikasur wanted the power. If he would touch someone's head, the head of that person would immediately crack in pieces. That so Frikasur got it because Frikasur was doing austerities. He was putting his own flesh into the fire. And finally, because Lord Shiva did not appear to grant him a benediction, he was going to cut his head off and put it into the fire. But just before Lord Shiva appeared and said, "What do you want?" And Frikasur said, "I want the mystic power. If I touch someone's head, it will crack into pieces." And Shiva said, "Okay, so be it." And immediately, Frikasur wanted to touch the head of Lord Shiva, but Lord Shiva fled. And then he went to Lord Vishnu and said, "I'm in trouble." Lord Vishnu went to Frikasur and said to Frikasur, he bewildered them and said, "Do you believe Lord Shiva can give such mystic powers? I don't believe it." That and so if you want to, you just try it out. Put your hand on your head, and he put his hand on his head, and his head burst into thousands of pieces. So Lord Shiva can give such benedictions, maybe mystic powers or whatever. That, but yeah, they are not the mystic powers we are speaking here. If you meditate on Krishna, then you get the real thing. Otherwise, you get a faint reflection from that. So that is what I could say on this. But otherwise, yeah. Someone wants to try it out and want to please Lord Shiva, let me know what the results are. Text 22, Kama Rupa. When the yogi applying his mind in a certain way desires to assume a particular form, that very form immediately appears. Such perfection is possible by absorbing the mind in the shelter of my inconceivable mystic potency, by which I assume innumerable forms. Assume a particular form by applying his mind. So, purport by Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj, 22. If the mind desires to assume the form of a demigod, it can do so by transforming itself as ingredient cause. If the yogi concentrates his mind on the Supreme Lord, as described in this verse, he can assume any form he desires. Good. 23. That's parakaya praveshanam, entering another's body. So when a perfect yogi desires to enter another's body, he should meditate upon himself within the other body, and then give up his own gross body, and should enter the other's body through the pathway of air as easily as a bee leaves one's flower and flies into another. That I read the purport again of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj on 23. 23. Yeah. One may admire a heroic man or a beautiful woman and desire to experience life within their extraordinary material body. One can enter the body of another person by availing himself of the mystic perfection called Parakaya Pravesham. However, pure devotees are never attracted to any kind of material body, knowing that even in the topmost planet there is material misery and death. Instead, they remain satisfied on the platform of eternal life. The spiritual air transfers the devotee to Goloka Vrindavan, where he eternally engaged in the Lord's service as a member of his entourage. So, I'm not sure how it works, but it's described here. You can. 24. The yogi who has achieved the mystic perfection called Svashadamritya blocks the anus with the heel of the foot and then lifts the soul from the heart to the chest, the neck, and finally to the head, situated in the Brahmarandhra. And the yogi then gives up his material body and guides his spiritual soul to a selected destination. This is Svashadamritya. The yogi gives up his material body and guides his spiritual soul to a selected destination in the purport. It's about Bhishmadev. The mystic opulence of Svashadamritya, or dying at will, was wonderfully exhibited by Bhishmadev at the end of the Battle of Kurukshetra. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, the term Brahma, as used in this verse, is an example of upalakshana, or the use of a general term to indicate various concepts. Brahma here indicates the particular destination selected by the yogi, namely the spiritual sky, the impersonal Brahma Jyoti, or any other destination that has attracted the yogi's mind. The 24 is Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj. Since the practice of giving up the body as described in this verse by means of perfection in the practice of Hatha Yoga or Raja Yoga cannot enable one to surpass the kingdom of mundane existence, it is sensible to accept everything favorable for the practice of Krishna consciousness. If one cultivates Krishna consciousness within his heart while giving up all thoughts of sense gratification, thus detaching himself from the desire for material enjoyment, and giving up the propensity for either enjoyment or renouncing the fruits of his karma while engaging in the service of the Supreme Lord, he will automatically attain this perfection. So it's automatically attained by the devotee. We don't have to acquire that separately. 25. The yogi who desires to enjoy in the pleasure gardens of the demigods should meditate on the purified mode of goodness, which is situated within me, and then the heavenly women generated from the mode of goodness will approach him in airplanes. That is Sankalpa. Yeah, that is one. Now, how this is called? Vimane no Patistanti. The airplane will arrive with the beautiful women. And then 26. That a yogi who has faith in me, absorbing his mind in me, knowing me that my purpose is always fulfilled, will always achieve his purpose by the very means he has determined to follow. The Sankalpa Siddhi, and I will read the purpose of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati. That's some Sankalpa Siddhi. One should make up his mind to revive his forgotten relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead by means of devotional service, which can be executed anywhere and anyone. There are many scriptures that guide us when back home, back to Godhead. Among them are Sankalpa Kalpa Druma by Srila Jiva Goswami, Sri Govinda Lilamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Sri Krishna Bhavanamrita and Sankalpa Kalpadruma by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and Gauranga Smarana Mangal by Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur. By carefully studying the subject presented in books like Bhaktivedanta Thakur, By carefully studying the subjects presented in books like Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and Ujjvala Nilamani, one's eternal perfection can be awakened, save one from the attractions of the illusory material existence, its only end in misery. So we should read books that guide us back to Godhead. Bhaktivedanta Sarasvati Maharaj says, 28, 26, and 27 on first. That a person who perfectly meditates on me acquires my nature of being the supreme ruler and controller. His order, like mine, can never be frustrated by any means. Bhaktivedanta Sarasvati Maharaj. Impersonalists imagine that they have become one with the Lord, but it is the devotees who actually share the Lord's transcendental qualities. Being fully devoted to the Lord, the pure devotees are situated on the same platform as the Lord, a platform that is above the influence of time in terms of past, present, and future. Thus, the pure devotees are liberated due to being absorbed in the service of the Lord and knowers of past, present, and future, as the Lord. 28. A yogi who has purified his existence by devotion to me, and who thus expertly knows the process of meditation, obtains knowledge of past, present, and future. He can therefore see the birth and death of himself and others. Purport: having explained the 8 primary and 10 secondary mystic perfection of yoga, the Lord now explains the 5 inferior potencies. Yeah, I don't know if someone would be interested to see his own death, but we will experience it anyway. That 29. Just as the bodies of aquatics cannot be injured by water, similarly, the body of a yogi whose consciousness is pacified by devotion to me and fully engaged in, fully developed in yoga science, cannot be injured by fire, sun, water, poison, and so on. So we have seen that in Prahlad Maharaj, that, but someone can read the purport.
The creatures dwelling in the ocean are never injured by water. Rather, they enjoy life within the watery medium. Similarly, for one skilled in the techniques of yoga, fending off attacks by weapons, fire, poison, and so on is a recreational activity. Prahlad Maharaj was attacked by his father in all these ways, but because of his perfect Krishna consciousness, he was not injured. The pure devotees of the Lord depend fully on the mercy of Lord Krishna, who possesses mystic opulences to an infinite degree and is therefore known as Yogeshwara, the master of all mystic power. Because devotees are always connected to Lord Krishna, they do not feel any need to separately develop powers already possessed unlimitedly by their Lord, Master, and Protector. If a human being falls into the middle of the ocean, he quickly drowns, whereas the fish enjoy happiness sporting in the same waves. Similarly, the conditioned souls have fallen into the ocean of material existence and are drowning in the reactions to their sinful activities, whereas the devotees recognize this world to be the potency of the Lord and enjoy pleasurable pastimes within it by fully engaging in the loving service of Lord Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Now becoming unconquerable. My devotees become unconquerable by meditating on my opulent incarnations, which are decorated with Srivatsa and various weapons, and are endowed with imperial paraphernalia such as flags, ornamental umbrellas, and fans. The imperial paraphernalia of the Lord's opulent incarnations indicates his omnipotency, and the devotees become unconquerable by meditating on the Lord's powerful, royally equipped incarnations, as stated by Bilvamangal Thakur in Krishnamrita verse 107. Bhaktistvai stiratara bhagavan yati syat devenana falati divya kishora mukti. Mukti svayam mukulitanjali sevate sman. Dharmaktaka kataya samaya patiksha. My dear Lord, if we develop unflinching devotional service unto you, then automatically your transcendental youthful form is revealed to us. Thus, liberation herself waits with folded hands to service and the ultimate goals of religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification patiently wait to render service to us. So this is all mystic perfections come to serve the devotee of the Lord, is confirmed by Bilva Mangal Thakur in his book Krishna Karnamrita. We just read it for the purport. 31. A learned devotee who worships me through yoga meditation certainly obtains in all respect the mystic perfections that I have described. The word yoga dharana indicates that each devotee obtains a particular perfection for which he has qualified himself. The Lord thus concludes the discussion of yoga siddhis. That now it's summarizing the topic. For a sage who has conquered his senses, reading and mind, who is self-control and always absorbed in meditation on me, what mystic perfection could possibly be difficult to achieve? Srila Siddhar Swami comments as follows. Lord Krishna here expresses that there is no need to practice many different processes, for by completely carrying out even of the above-mentioned procedures, one controls one's senses, becomes absorbed in him, and achieves all mystic perfection. Srila Jiva Goswami notes that one must meditate on the transcendental form of the Lord, which is free from any material designation. This is the essence of advancing in the yoga system. Thus, one acquires all mystic perfections very easily from the personal body of the personality of Godhead. Text 33. That learned experts in devotional service state that the mystic perfection of yoga that I have mentioned are actually impediments and are a waste of time for one who is practicing the supreme yoga, by which one achieves all perfections from me. So mystic perfections of yoga are impediments, Krishna says. Purport. It is common sense that whatever is a useless waste of time should be given up. Therefore, one should not pray to the Lord for mystic yogic perfections. For a pure devotee who has no material desire, even impersonal liberation is a useless disturbance in his life. What to speak of the material perfections of yoga, which cannot even be compared to be impersonal liberation. Such mystic perfections may be wonderful for an immature and inexperienced person, but they are not impressive for a learned man who has understood the personality of Godhead. Simply by obtaining Lord Krishna, one dwells within an infinite ocean of mystic opulences. Therefore, he should not waste time in pursuing separate mystic perfections. 34. Whatever mystic perfections can be achieved by good birth, herbs, austerities, and mantras can all be achieved by devotional service to me. Indeed, one cannot achieve the actual perfection of yoga by any other means. This is 30. Yeah. Can someone read the purport, please? By taking birth.
By taking birth as a demigod, one is automatically endowed with many mystic perfections. Simply by birth on Siddhaloka, one automatically acquires all the 8 principal perfections of yoga. Similarly, by birth as a fish, one becomes invulnerable to water. By birth as a bird, one gets the mystic perfection of flying. And by birth as a ghost, one gets the mystic perfection of disappearing and entering into the bodies of others. Patanjali Muni states that the mystic perfections of yoga can be achieved by birth, herbs, austerities, and mantras. The Lord states, however, that such perfections are ultimately a waste of time and an impediment to achieving the actual perfection of yoga, Krishna consciousness. Those who give up the process of bhakti yoga and shop around for other objects of meditation besides Krishna are certainly not very intelligent. Those who claim to be yogis but pursue the satisfaction of their own senses are certainly kuyogis or bhogi yogis. Such kuyogis cannot understand that just as they have tiny senses, the absolute truth has absolute senses, nor can they understand that yoga is actually meant to satisfy the absolute senses of the Lord. Therefore, persons who give up the lotus feet of the Lord in order to pursue so-called happiness and mystic perfection will undoubtedly be frustrated in their attempt. By meditating exclusively on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can achieve Yoga Gati, the ultimate goal of yoga, which means living on Lord Krishna's planet and there enjoying spiritual opulence.
Thank you. That, so now, text 35, we are going to conclude. My dear Uddhava, I am the cause, the protector, and the Lord of all mystic perfections, of the yoga systems, of analytical knowledge, of pure activity, and of the community of learned Vedic teachers. So according to Srila Sridhar, the word yoga here indicates liberation from material life, and Sankhya indicates the means of obtaining liberation. Thus Lord Krishna is not merely the Lord of material yoga perfections, but of the highest liberated perfections as well. One can obtain Sankhya or knowledge leading to liberation by performing pious activities, and Lord Krishna is also the cause of protector of such activities, as well as the learned teachers who instruct ordinary people in the means of piety. In many ways, many different ways, Lord Krishna is the real object of meditation and worship for every living entity. Lord Krishna, through the expansion of his bodies, is everything, and this simple understanding called Krishna consciousness is the supreme perfection of yoga. I read commentary on Bhaktivedanta Saraswati. The Supreme Lord alone is object of all various abhideyas or paths of perfection, which are followed by all class of human beings. The so-called perfection attained by those who have become bewildered by self-centered egoistic conceptions of life, and have thus given up the service of the Supreme Lord is temporary and most insignificant. The Supreme Lord is present everywhere and is the ultimate goal of all process for attaining perfection in life. Last verse. Just as the same material elements exist within and outside of all material bodies, similarly, I cannot be covered by anything else. I exist within everything as a super soul and outside everything in my all-pervading feature. But Lord Krishna is the entire basis of meditation of all the yogis and philosophers. And here the Lord clarifies his absolute position. Since the Lord is within everything, one may think that the Lord is divided into pieces. However, the word anavrita, or completely uncovered, indicates that nothing can interrupt, disturb, or in any way infringe upon the supreme existence of the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead. There is no actual separation between internal and external existence of the material elements, which continuously exist everywhere. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is all-pervading and is ultimately the perfection of everything. So that is the end of chapter 15, the mystic perfections. And now Krishna, that Uddhava will ask Krishna how it can be observed in the material world directly. And we will hear about the Lord's opulences in the next lesson, the last lesson we have together. That any questions, comments, or realizations, aspirations? Good. That. Then we will continue tomorrow. Yeah. Ram Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dhandas Maharaj. Maharaj, I would like to know, are there any followers of Uddhava other than the devotees? Because Krishna has taken so much other than the devotees.
Are there any followers then?
Of Uddhava other than the devotees, because Krishna has taken so much of efforts to explain about these 18 different kinds of mystic perfections. From the Bhagavatam, are there anyone who takes some kind of an inspiration, especially that these teachings are there available?
Yeah, well, these teachings were meant for the sage of Badarika and were given to Uddhava with that purpose. By that we can understand the sages of Badarika were of different kinds, and some may be interested in or were developing mystic powers. And now these sages will hear from Uddhava, oh, it's all useless, that it are impediments of pure devotional service. So that is a sign of the Lord's compassion. So there were many followers later of Uddhava. The sages heard from him, the Uddhava. Therefore, it's called the Uddhava Gita. That was Krishna's purpose, that they should hear from Uddhava. And it was also Krishna's purpose that we should hear from Uddhava. That's what I could say.
Thank you, Maharaj. This is very nicely clarified. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow. Bye.